Jeff, Zach, thanks for joining me.
Hey, Steve.
Going on, Steve?
Hey, well, one thing that's going on is the Washington, D.C. office market may not be Trump-tastic. The new Trump administration is considering selling two-thirds of the federal government's office stock. That's according to people familiar with the transition operations, according to some reports. Right now, about three-quarters of the 70 million square feet of office space um, is looks like it's up for grabs and is likely to be canceled. Buildings could sell for 30 cents on the dollar. In the Washington, D.C. area, the occupancy rate right now is about 12%, and the government owns more than 7,500 vacant buildings across the country and more than 2,200 that are partially empty. So especially in the DC area that you're pretty familiar with, Zach, there's rumblings and rumors that there might be a lot of product hitting the market soon. Your thoughts?
Nah, it's all fake news, right? The government's saying they're not canceling any leases, there's no problems. No, God, I've been seeing this and saying this for years, if not more than a decade, at least privately to people that I talk to in real estate. You've got a massive development slate that's already come into the market over the last decade, in terms of apartments and otherwise. You've got town centers popping up everywhere. You've got tens of millions of square feet in the development pipeline in and around DC. And now you're going to add about 70 million square feet of vacant space at a fraction of what it costs to build new space. I mean, you are watching a massive bubble that looks like it's going to burst. I don't think anyone can afford to let it burst. I don't know that um, landlords, developers, everybody's going to go down without fighting. I don't know that it's going to be as bad as it possibly could be. But the way that it looks on paper is you're going to have all of this empty space come in. It's going to be basically free, for lack of a better way of understanding how cheap it's going to be. And you're going to be able to go in and reconstruct it for 50 cents to every other dollar that everyone else is already in for. You're going to be able to lower rents dramatically and still make a profit. Um, that's kind of what I think is going to happen. And beyond that, I think you're going to have so much supply that you're going to watch vacancy rates across the board for every real estate type drop. So there's just going to be so much supply.
Well, thanks, Zach, for the depressing information. I'm not sure what to say to that.
Hey, look,
So,
I grew up there. I was born there. I was raised there. I've worked there for a long, long time. I went to school. I've seen it all across the board, and everyone has always said, no, DC is only going to go up and up and up and up. And I could never make the metrics work for me, and I always felt like there was something wrong with me that I just didn't get it. So,
look,
I mean, I don't know if
I'm
it's
being some,
depressing.
I'm being somewhat facetious. I mean, the reality is, if you look at the numbers, you've got 7,500 vacant buildings across the country. Well, like, what the hell do we need them for? I mean, when I say we, I mean we as a country. Like, that's just something that we're paying tax dollars to support, and actually, from what it says, to really to not even support, because they're in, some of them are in complete disrepair. So, it does beg the question of, like, what do we need it for? What are we paying for? I mean, I get it. Do I think it's going to impact what we do? Sure. And I think there'll be unintended consequences from it as well that nobody is prepared for. But maybe the administration has some sort of card they're playing in their back pocket that we're not aware of.
I think this is regional. I don't think it's going to spread much further than the DC metro area, but 70 million square feet, that's just in DC alone. You're not talking about the surrounding counties in Maryland and in Virginia, where there's massive more amounts of governmental land and leases that potentially could be cut too. And so it
Yeah.
could be dramatically more than 70 million square feet. But 70 million square feet, I mean, some of the largest buildings in the world in Manhattan and San Francisco and other cities are million to 2 million square foot buildings. You're talking about 30 to 40 of those buildings hitting the market at the same time empty. I mean, just empty. The cost to build them is hundreds of millions. So they're going to sell for 20 million bucks. Like, you can't compete with that. And they're going to sit vacant, and you're going to drag down the cost of rents everywhere. I mean, it's just going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah, just to go into that, I mean, one thing to kind of back you up in the terms of the people thought they couldn't lose. You go back to the '08 recession, real estate. The only real, I believe, the only real estate market in the country that didn't go down was that DC area, and I think it did kind of feed that story of you can't lose, which is always a dangerous story. But I want to get your guys' insight in terms of, it's very kind of specific supply that's going to be hitting the market. We're talking like a lot of buildings that were really, built many decades ago that are not in good condition, that are not modern. Yeah, you're gonna have to do like refurb, or you're gonna have to, do some,
Repurpose.
repurposing, that are not necessarily going to compete with the top tier spaces. So kind of, just your thoughts in terms of the impact of it's not a lot of product across the market hitting it. It's very specific. It's a lot of product, but it's very specific product in terms of kind of really low tier office space that is really, not that enticing. It's going to take some work. Your thoughts on that impact?
Zach,
Well,
I'm curious, what's the typical cost in DC for a renovation? $50 a square foot?
I mean, if you're talking ground up development of new space, it could be four, five, $600 a square foot or more. And so if you've got a $50 million building you got for $15 million, that I mean, that's probably cheaper than the land and the concrete on a new building. And you got a whole
Sure.
building with structure and guts. So retrofitting it probably is going to be cheaper. It's probably to rebuild interiors could be 200 to 300 a foot as opposed to
Well,
six
so I,
hundred a
I did,
foot.
I mean,
So I
just,
mean,
and I asked it kind of rhetorically speaking, because in reality, you're talking about, the article is talking about 70 million square feet of GSA leased space. So 70 million square feet at $50 is $3.5 billion of
yeah,
renovations in a market. One market. So,
construction's going to be great. I
yeah.
wouldn't want to be the landlord or the landowner. So, construction company, I guess here we come.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
construction, and then look, the other side of it is the consequence to developers that develop these type spaces. What the hell do you develop? You might not be building anything for a while.
Well, look, if you listen this long, my best guess,
Fair
my
enough.
secret sauce here is most powerful people don't go down without a fight. And we're talking about very, very powerful and rich developers, companies otherwise that probably have Trump's ear or the administration's ear in some way. I would position myself at this point in other markets specifically for impending tax breaks, tax cuts, economic incentives that are not going to be localized just to this market, but will
Yeah.
be in direct support of this market that then will give you a lot of, springboard in other areas. That could be a really big windfall. So I'd start positioning for administrative policies that are going to soften this blow, that are going to impact all sorts of other markets very positively.
Okay, well, I think this is one it's we're going to be covering and talking about for a little while, because I'm expecting more news on this in the coming months. Thanks a lot for your insights, guys. If you enjoyed the video, thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't. Give us some comments about what you think about DC office market, the government unloading supply, and remodeling, refurbing, everything going on here. And visit the website, selectfincap.com. Get on an exclusive real estate investment newsletter and see exclusive opportunities in the commercial space. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve.